Hey guys, it's Aaron Respect. We all know Doom is one of the most legendary franchises in gaming history. It shaped the FPS genre over 30 years ago with Doom 1 and 2, terrified us with Doom's 3 horror-driven experience, and then the franchise was on the verge of collapse. After Doom 3, with years of development hell, id Software struggled to figure out where to take the series. It almost completely lost its identity with Doom 4, a game that strayed so far from its roots it had to be cancelled entirely. But how did we get there? What went wrong with Doom 4? How did id save the franchise from a disaster and release a reboot of Doom deemed worthy by the fans with its fast, brutal, and old school action and still have a place in modern gaming? To understand how Doom 2016 saved the franchise, we have to dive deeper into Doom 4's disaster, a project that could have ruined the iconic series forever. In the mid-2000s, id Software began working on Doom 4, the game fans were clamoring for. They wanted fast-paced action, a new world to explore, and the return of the Doomslayer to rip and tear through demons. However, what id delivered during the early development stages of Doom 4 was something vastly different. Instead of the familiar hellish landscapes, players were thrown into a dark, war-torn Earth with a focus on military soldiers fighting off Hell's invasion. The game had more in common with modern military shooters like Call of Duty and Battlefield than the fast-paced, chaotic action that defined the original Doom. This version of Doom was designed to follow the trends of the time. Attempting to fit the mold of other blockbuster FPS titles, the combat was methodical. It lacked the speed, power, and ferocity of the franchise's roots. Instead of a fast run-and-gun style, players were forced to crouch behind cover, engage in slow-paced firefights, and listen to scripted narrative sequences involving human NPCs. It was all too cinematic, too tied to realism, and far removed from the core appeal of Doom. Fans were vocal in their disappointment, and behind the scenes, id Software team was equally aware that things weren't working. In interviews, developers later admitted the game had lost its soul. It wasn't fun to play, it didn't feel like Doom. The speed and intensity that made the original games legendary was missing. And instead of focusing on over-the-top demon slaying, the game was weighed down by a gritty, dark aesthetic that felt more like a generic shooter. John Carmack, one of the founding members of id Software, was candid in his reflections about the game's development. The team was caught up in trying to make Doom 4 fit in the current FPS landscape rather than embracing what made the franchise stand out in the first place. They admitted they lost sight of what made Doom great: fast, fluid, brutal combat. Without all the slow, methodical pacing, Doom 4 wasn't capturing the essence of the original games. It was too slow, too derivative, and ultimately too detached from its roots. So in 2013, id Software made a bold, risky decision. They scrapped Doom 4 entirely. This wasn't a small decision. id Software already spent years working on the project, and having to abandon it meant a huge financial and creative setback. But in the end, the developers realized that if they didn't reset the project, they risked tarnishing the legacy forever. Instead of continuing to pour resources into a game that wasn't Doom, they focused on going back to the core of ideas what made the series revolutionary. Intense, fast-paced combat, a clear focus on the action, and a return to the chaotic violence that fans adored. This decision ultimately saved Doom and led to the creation of Doom 2016, a game that would redefine the series and bring it back to the forefront of gaming. By scrapping the failed Doom 4 concept, id Software avoided a massive disaster. This reset ensured that the Doom series would stay true to its origins while still evolving to meet modern standards of gameplay. And most importantly, they listened to the fans. Doom 2016 wasn't just a reboot, it was a statement. The moment you start the game, you're thrown straight into the action, no long-winded cutscenes. Everything about Doom 2016 pushed players to stay aggressive. The glory kill system wasn't just fun, it was designed to reward non-stop action, and then there was the soundtrack. Mick Gordon's industrial metal soundtrack wasn't just background noise, it was the pulse of the game. The harder you fought, the more the music pushed you forward. When Doom 2016 finally launched on May 13, 2016, the gaming world held its breath. Would id Software's bold reboot bring Doom back to life, or was the franchise doomed to fade into history? The answer was immediate. Doom 2016 was a masterpiece. It blew away expectations, proving that an old-school FPS could still thrive in a world of slow, cover-based shooters. The game rewarded aggression, skill, and speed, capturing everything that made classic Doom great, while modernizing it for a new era. But it wasn't just fans who loved it, critics were shocked. Gaming outlets that had doubted the game during development suddenly couldn't stop praising it. IGN, a blood-pumping shooter that never lets up. GameSpot, Doom is back and it's better than ever. PC Gamer, the best FPS campaign in over a decade. And the numbers spoke for themselves. Over 3.5 million copies sold in its first year, winner of Best Action Game at the Game Awards, and one of the highest rated FPS games of the decade. But the real proof of success? The fans. Players couldn't get enough of the fast-paced, hyper-violent action. The community exploded with custom levels and challenges, while speedrunners pushed the game to its limits. id Software has done it. They resurrected Doom, making it feel as fresh and powerful as it did in 1993. But the story didn't end there. They wanted to push it even further, and that's where Doom Eternal comes in. If Doom 2016 was a triumphant return, then Doom Eternal was the evolution of the Slayer. id Software didn't just make a sequel, they doubled down on everything that made Doom 2016 great and cranked it up to 11. Faster movement, more parkour and verticality, even crazier weapons and enemies, and an even more aggressive combat loop. For the first time, the Slayer had mobility options that felt almost superhuman, with dashes, wall climbing, and the meat hook. Players weren't just running and gunning, they were hunting. But Doom Eternal wasn't all about the movement. Combat was redesigned to force mastery of every tool in the Slayer's arsenal. Need health? Glory kill. Need armor? Here's a new tool, the Flame Belch. Running out of ammo? Chainsaw them in half. This wasn't just about shooting, they perfected the dance of destruction. Every fight became a puzzle, forcing players to think, move, and adapt on the fly. Then there were the Marauders, a new enemy designed to test players' skills like never before. Love to spam the super shotgun? Not anymore. These guys demanded patience, precision, and perfect timing. Fans were divided on them, but there were no denying that they forced players to get better. And let's talk about the lore. For the first time, Doom Eternal fleshed out the Doom Slayer's backstory, revealing that he wasn't just a marine who got angry at demons, he was like a godlike warrior trained by an ancient order known as the Night Sentinels. We learned about the Makers, Hell Priests, and the vast war between heaven and hell. Some fans loved the deep lore, and others just wanted to rip demons apart without the story getting in the way. But one thing was clear, Doom was bigger than ever. By the time Doom Eternal ended, the Slayer had destroyed the literal ruler of hell. But his fight wasn't over, because the next game is taking us way back. The next chapter of Doom isn't a sequel, it's a prequel. Doom: The Dark Ages is taking us to a time before the events of Doom 2016, exploring the origins of the Doom Slayer and his war against hell. This time, instead of high-tech Mars facilities and industrial corridors, we're getting a medieval-inspired world filled with castles, dark magic, and war-torn landscapes. Think of it as Doom meets dark fantasy. And yes, you can ride a freaking dragon. And even though the setting is changing, the core of Doom remains the same. Fast, fluid combat, insane weapons, glory kills, chainsaws, and over-the-top destruction. The reveal trailer showed a huge variety of new enemies, including Twisted Hellspawn, corrupted knights, and mechanical abominations straight out of a nightmare. The biggest question now is, will this game bridge the gap between the Slayer's past and what we saw in Doom Eternal? We already know the Slayer was once a human warrior who became something more. Could Doom: The Dark Ages finally show us the moment he became the unkillable force we know today? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain, Doom is about to take us somewhere we've never been before. When id Software scrapped Doom 4, they didn't just save the franchise, they redefined it. Doom 2016 brought back speed, violence, and chaos. Doom Eternal turned combat into a high-speed chess match of destruction. And now Doom: The Dark Ages is taking us back to the origins. Through cancellations, failed experiments, and risky decisions, id Software proved one thing. Doom isn't just about shooting demons, it's about revolutionizing how FPS games are played. And as long as the Doom Slayer is still standing, the fight isn't over. That'll be the end of the video. Feel free to share, like, and comment down below how hyped you are for Doom: The Dark Ages. Peace.